Today I want to talk about creativity and how to push through those mental creative blocks, because I just got through one myself and I really want to share how you can do that too. Hey everybody, I'm David, and if you've been keeping an eye out for some new videos on my channel the last couple weeks, you may have noticed that there aren't any because I haven't been posting very often. I've been working a lot behind the scenes, but I have been in a creative slump where I haven't felt very motivated or inspired to sit down and do new videos or new music. And there's a bunch of factors involved with that as to why, and I'll get more into that throughout the video. But a friend recently messaged me on Facebook saying that he was going through something very similar, and he said he's been struggling with creating new things for the last couple months, and so he asked for advice on how I've gotten through that in the past. And seeing that I was stuck in the middle of it, of my personal slump, when he asked that question, I felt a little silly in answering, but it did make me think about how I've gotten through them in the past. And so a combination of that, along with talking to some friends and family about how they remain creative and what their creative processes are like, I wanted to share how that helped me get through and actually post something new on Fridays. I posted a cover of Coldplay's The Scientist, which I really love that song, and I've been wanting to do it for a while, and I was struggling with posting it. Actually, I was struggling with filming it because I was afraid that it wasn't going to be up to my standard, that it wasn't going to be as good as I hoped it would be. But I'm really thankful that I did post it because I like how it turned out. I've gotten a lot of great feedback on it, and if you haven't seen it yet, there'll be a link in the description where you can check that out. So my brother just shared with me a very cool video by PBS called The 4 Stages of Creativity by psychologist Scott Kaufman, and he really just talks about the 4 parts of the creative process for most individuals. And so I really would just want to break those down, talk about how they can apply to your life, and then give a couple examples and quotes from famous people and my personal experience of how these actually work. After that, I want to quickly talk about what it is exactly that creates those creative blocks in our lives, and then I want to share some really important tips of how you can become the most creative person that you possibly can. So be sure to stick around to the end of the video for that. But before we get to any of that, I really just want to let you know that everybody is creative. We all have the capacity to be super creative people as long as we know how to tap into that by understanding our personal creative processes. So being introspective is going to be really important here. So stage 1 in the creative process is preparation. This is where we take in a bunch of information, a bunch of new ideas, personal experiences, art, and we put it all into a big mental melting pot. That's kind of a mouthful. And we're going to store that for later so we can start generating brand new creative ideas. So what can you put into your mental melting pot? You can go to events, you can travel, you can go to new places like a new art museum. We just got a new aquarium in San Antonio that I kind of want to check out. You can build new relationships. You can go out to events and actually start talking to people. It's kind of hard for me as an introvert sometimes to build new relationships like that, but I have plenty of friends who I hang out with on a regular basis, and it's always really cool just to hear what's going on in their lives, new stories that they're sharing, just taking a bunch of new personal experiences that later on you can take from to inspire new works. The other thing you can do is consume other art forms. That can be like film, books, music, painting, sculptures, just anything else that's going to help inspire those new ideas is awesome. Then once you have all those new experiences and new information in your pot, then you're going to move on to stage 2, which is incubation. This is the part of the process where you actually let go. You stop thinking about the new thing that you want to create. You stop trying to come up with ideas and start doing mundane tasks, like everyday tasks. Go for a walk, go swimming, go to the gym, do some exercising, go to the movies with friends. Just take your mind off the new project. Don't stress about it, and let the inner cogs and workings in your mind come to a new idea by itself. It's been proven that this happens a lot, actually. Your mind is going to keep working even if you're focused on something else. And what really works is if you're able to clear your mind completely. So you might have experienced this in the past. You're getting ready for bed, you've already washed up, brushed your teeth and everything, and you're laying down, and after like 10-15 minutes of trying to fall asleep, a new idea pops into your head. And that's because you have cleared your mind enough so that it can start doing all that creative processing. So some other times that people have experienced this are like you're going to the bathroom to get in the shower, and you're not doing anything other than bathing, so your mind is free to process and think on its own. And at this point in the process, we get to a very important part in creativity, which is illumination, that aha moment. I was talking to a friend of mine who is a professional composer last year, and I was asking him about where he gets inspiration from for his compositions. And he told me this really cool story about a friend of his who was attending a lecture by the famous composer John Williams. And this friend got up and said, "Mr. Williams, I was really wondering where you came up with this ingenious idea for this composition for this film that you worked on in the past." I don't remember what movie it was. And John Williams thought to himself for a second, and he said, well, you know, I was in a cafe in France reading a book one afternoon, and all of a sudden it just hit me, and then I started writing that piece. And his friend said, wait, so you weren't like slaving over a workbench trying to write out all these different ideas to come up with this beautiful composition? And he just went, no. And I thought that was amazing. Not that he doesn't work super hard. I'm actually going to post a link to an article in the description about his creative process, which I found fascinating. But it just goes to show that even the biggest composers, the most famous composers, have those aha moments. And they have them while they're doing things not related to work. So don't stress if you're not having that huge moment. Just take a break and let the idea cook in the back of your mind, and it's going to hit you while you're sitting in a cafe. Koji Kondo, who's arguably one of the best composers in video game history, has a very similar method where he will do a bunch of work for all the soundtracks he's developing, but he said that his biggest melodies, his best melodies usually come when he's doing everyday tasks, walking his dog, taking a bath. I'll share an article with all those stories in the description too. So you've been inspired, you have this amazing idea that you want to share with people, but now you have to actually format it and shape it into something that you can share with people, like a video or a piece of music or a sculpture or a painting. Now you have to make it into a complete work. And this is the part where a lot of artists can get stuck, because this is where the hard work comes in. So you have your idea, you've been inspired to create this new and beautiful work, but for some reason, you can't take it to the next step. You can't turn it into a reality for a number of different reasons. And you might know what that reason is, what's stopping you from being creative, but a lot of people don't actually. And I found out that they break into two different categories of reasons as to what might be stopping you. The first category are external factors, and the second are internal factors. So the external factors usually break down to two different things. Either it can be relationships. You have a family in your home and they don't like what you're doing, or they're not very supportive in what you're doing, or it could be friends who you might be afraid of what they think about what you're doing. Whatever your art form may be, if you feel like you don't have the support for it, find new friends. You can't find a new family. But I think the more that you stick with a certain art form, I think the more accepting your family can be. It can be different for every family, I understand. But remember that you're creating art for you, not for other people. There's a really cool quote by Bruce Lee about what it means to be an artist and to create. And he says it's really important to do it for yourself, for the audience of you. And I'll share a link to that quote in the description as well. And it's just, I saw that a couple days ago on Facebook, and it just really kind of hit home for me on that point. The second external factor is your environment. You may be in a home where it's super noisy on the outside. There's construction constantly. Your neighbors are noisy. You have really thin walls, and you're afraid you're going to disturb the people who live around you. You're constantly seeing a messy room. I'm actually reading through a book called The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, and she talks a lot about how you can be distracted by your surroundings. If you live in an untidy place and everything's kind of messy, you're going to be constantly distracted, and that's not a good place to be creative. So you might need to clean your room. I'll put a link to that book in the description below too, because it's got some really cool insight as to things that can help bring mental clarity for you. And after reading through that, I've just come to discover that I'm feeling more creative by living in a more tidy place. And if it is super noisy where you live, you may just have to find times in your day that are quiet, that you can think and that you can process. If you need to talk to people, your neighbors, and say, look, I am trying to do this music thing, or I'm trying to do this filming thing, and if you could really just give me like an hour or 2 hours to film or to focus on my work, I'd really appreciate that. I'll make you cookies or dinner sometime or something. And more times than not, they're understanding. But if they're not, you just got to find a pocket of time where you can be creative, where you can film, where you can write, where you can record, and just work with those constraints. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And then when it comes to internal factors, this is one that's really been hard for me as an artist and as a performer, and that is fear of failure. And that's because you are your own worst critic. I know for myself, when I've posted stuff in the past on YouTube or audio somewhere, I felt really critical about what I had posted, or even before that. I've been kind of traumatized from posting things I've recorded in the past and just not been happy with my final work. In fact, I remember there was a recording by Jimi Hendrix that he was obsessed with coming up with the most perfect guitar solo for one of his records, and he just kept going into the studio day after day after day trying to come up with this perfect solo. And it just really reminded me that we are our worst critics, that nothing's ever going to be perfect, and you can't allow that feeling to stop you from creating. You have to just push through that and create. You have to make new things and realize that each creation is a stepping stone to your greatest creation. That, yeah, this may not be the most perfect thing that you've ever came out with, but the next one might be, or the next one might be, or the next one might be. And you just got to keep working through that, even if you have that limited amount of time because of your neighbors, or your equipment might not be the best. Just do the best you can with what you have right now. That's advice I've given to other people who've asked me, like, what can I do to be a better YouTuber, to post better videos? Don't think about having the best of stuff. I'm never going to have the best computer or the best microphones or the best camera. I have what I have, and I just have to work within those constraints to create the best that I possibly can. And that's all you can do for yourself. Just do your best. And that brings us to the last part. These are important tips that I found from some very famous artists, from friends, from personal experience. These are things that have helped me and other people to be as creative as you possibly can. And these are just things in your everyday life that you can set up for personal success every single day. And the first thing is consistency. In that article with John Williams, he said that one of the best parts of his creative process is that he made a commitment to write something new every day. This is when he's not doing a soundtrack, which he says is like a 6 work day thing for him. Like if he gets a film that he's composing for, he'll be in the office for 6 days a week working really hard on it. But in between those films, he just made a commitment to write a new piece every day, or to work on a new music composition. And I've heard that in the past too, where if you just make a commitment to work on something for 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, it's better than not doing anything. And it's going to keep your creative juices flowing. It's going to help you to continue to come up with new ideas and new thoughts. And it's going to help develop a habit of creativity. And that plays into the next part of coming up with a schedule for creativity. Try to stick with a hour every single day that you really feel creative, like lunchtime, right before you go to bed, right when you wake up in the morning. Try to figure out what time of the day you feel you're most creative, and try to stick with that same time every single day. I'm going to draw for 30 minutes here. I'm going to write a piece of music for 15 minutes here. I'm going to practice for an hour here. And that's really just going to help develop that habit as well. And then create deadlines for yourself. Like what I was really looking forward to with this YouTube schedule, which I'm actually updating, I'll talk about that at the end of the video, is that I set myself up to create on a regular basis. I really wanted to do 3 videos a week to help me stay in that flow and to not get lazy and to just keep something going for myself and for the viewers, people who appreciate and watch what I post. And that Creative Slump kind of stopped that. But I think with this new posting schedule that I'm going to be doing from now on is really going to help with that as well. So those deadlines are going to help you come up with some really cool stuff on crunch time. It's going to help you learn to work within time limits. It's going to push you to do the best you can with the time that you have. And it's really going to help you be more organized, really. So if you feel like you're a really disorganized person, create hard deadlines for yourself of when you have to post something. I wrote down this quote from Lorne Michaels, who was the guy who created Saturday Night Live, and he's still the creative director to this day. And somebody asked him, what is it like to work on a deadline every single week and knowing that you might not be giving your best show, that you might not be ready? What do you do? And he said, basically the show starts around 11:30 every single Saturday, and he said, we don't go on because we're ready, we go on because it's 11:30. And that really hit me. Like, having that deadline pushes you to put out something great every week. If you don't feel it's great, that's a bummer, but at least you're creating, and that just really helps you to create something cool. Another cool tip is collaboration. If you work with other artists, that accountability alone is extremely helpful for putting out new content. I know from in my past, I've worked with other people who are amazing artists. I've got so many amazing collaborations on my channel, and having that accountability of knowing that these other artists are amazing, so that means I should be amazing too, has really helped me. It's really pushed me to write better, to arrange better, to perform better, knowing that I'm performing with really good artists and knowing that we have this deadline of when we're going to post something too. That's only helped as well. So find amazing people to work with, and they're going to help bring you up and keep you accountable on those works. And probably one of the best pieces of advice I got last year and that I can share with you is out of this book, Stop Saying You're Fine by Mel Robbins. And she really just helps you throughout the book discover what it is you really want to do with your life and with your career. And the best thing I took from this book is that once you understand what it is that you want to do, you just have to do it. You're not always going to feel like it, but you have to force yourself. You have to remember why it is you're doing what it is you're doing, what goals you're trying to achieve, the people that you're trying to help or inspire, and just remind yourself, this is why I'm doing this. This is important. I have to do it. So that's it. I hope that these tips were as helpful to you as they were to me, and I'd really like to know what your personal tips and experiences are with creativity. Leave a comment down below to let me know what those are. I'd love to read them, and you never know, you might encourage somebody else and help them to get through a creative block as well. I'd also like to thank all these lovely people on Twitter who were kind enough to share their tips and advice for being more creative. And if you have any tips and advice or comments or questions for future vlogs, I'd love it if you sent them to me on Twitter at DocJazz4. It's always an easy way to reach me. So first, just a couple quick updates before we wrap up this video. First, thank you guys for sticking around to the very end. I'm probably going to be switching up my video schedule very soon from Monday, Wednesday, Friday to Tuesday, Friday, Sunday. And that's just to help with workflow and making sure I can spend more time on the music videos for Fridays, and then I get to work a little bit on the weekends as well. I'm doing a Kickstarter right now where, speaking of having a one-to-one music teacher, I'm doing a music method book for the Ocarina, and then I want to raise enough funds to help me produce the last half of the episodes for How to Play Ocarina, my series for teaching you how to play and read sheet music for the Ocarina. So that's going until April 22nd. There'll be a link in the description where you can go and check out the project, check out the rewards, and support the book and the new upcoming videos. I would really, really appreciate that. Then speaking of April 22nd, I'm going to be at PAX East in Boston, Massachusetts, which is in a couple weeks, and I'm going to be there with Songbird Ocarina. So if you want to come check out the Ocarina booth, see what we have new there, and then chat about stuff, I'm totally down to just talking. I'm not going to have a panel this time, but I'm just totally down for playing music and chatting with you guys, so please come tell me hi. And finally, YouTube has this thing now where you can actually get notifications every time I post a new video. So if you're one of those people I mentioned in the beginning who are constantly checking my channel and for new videos, you don't have to do that anymore. I'm not exactly sure how you do it, but I'll put something in the description, links to something that shows you how you can put on notifications for my new videos. So every time I post something new, you'll get a little notification on your phone or an email or something that tells you that I posted something new. But I'm going to really try to stick to the new video schedule, so it will be there when you come back to the channel. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave those comments down below, and I will see you guys on Tuesday.